The sacred drums of Kumbara village fell silent as Amara's scream pierced the humid night air. Under the ancient baobab tree that had watched over the village for 3 centuries, she knelt beside the lifeless body of her dearest friend, Zara, crimson spreading like spilled palm wine across the earth beneath them. The ceremonial knife, the very blade used in their childhood blood sister ritual years ago, lay gleaming in the moonlight, its silver surface now tainted with something far more sinister than the innocent drops of friendship they had once shared. The elders would later say that the ancestors themselves must have been watching, for at that precise moment, the village's most respected hunter, Kofi, emerged from the forest shadows. His weathered face, usually kind and understanding, now bore an expression of horror and suspicion as his eyes moved from the bloody knife to Amara's trembling hands, then to Zara's still form. "What have you done, child?" His voice carried the weight of disbelief and dawning accusation. But what Kofi could not see, what no one in Kumbara village would believe, was the figure that had fled into the darkness mere moments before Amara's arrival, a figure she knew intimately but had never spoken of to another soul. In the heart of the Sahel, where the great river Mano carved its ancient path through red earth and acacia groves, lay the village of Kumbara. For generations, the people of Kumbara had lived by the old ways, respecting the wisdom of elders, honoring the spirits of ancestors, and maintaining the delicate balance between the seen and unseen worlds. The village was known throughout the region for 3 things: the sweetest honey from the cliffs of Makossa, the finest weavers whose cloth could tell stories in thread and dye, and most importantly, the sacred baobab tree that stood at the village's heart. This magnificent tree, with its massive trunk and spreading branches, was said to house the spirit of Mamadou the Wise, the village's founding father. Under its protective canopy, justice was dispensed, marriages were blessed, and the most solemn oaths were sworn. It was here, 3 days after that terrible night, that the village council gathered to determine Amara's fate. Amara Konate was 20 years old, the daughter of the village's master blacksmith. Her father, Sekou, was respected for his skill in forging tools and weapons, but also feared for his fierce temper when crossed. Her mother, Fatoumata, was known as the gentlest woman in Kumbara, a healer who could cure everything from fever to heartbreak with her knowledge of herbs and spirit songs. From childhood, Amara had been different from other girls her age. While they played with dolls made of corn husks and dreamed of marriage, Amara spent her time in her father's forge, learning the secrets of metal and fire. She was tall for a woman, with strong hands and an independent spirit that sometimes clashed with village traditions. Some whispered that she was too proud, too unwilling to accept a woman's proper place. But those who knew her well understood that beneath her fierce exterior beat a heart full of loyalty and love. No one had been more devoted to her friend Zara than Amara. They had been inseparable since childhood, sharing secrets, dreams, and the special bond that comes from growing up together in a small community. Zara Traore was everything Amara was not: petite, gentle, and traditionally feminine. The daughter of a prosperous trader, she possessed a beauty that had caught the attention of young men from villages as far as the great market town of Ségou. Her laugh was like wind chimes, and her voice could make the most stubborn child obey with just a whisper. But Zara had a secret that she shared with no one, not even Amara. For the past 6 months, she had been meeting someone in secret. Stolen moments by the river, whispered conversations in the shadows of the market, passionate encounters that would have scandalized the village if discovered. On the morning of her death, Zara had seemed troubled. Several villagers later testified that she appeared nervous, constantly looking over her shoulder as if being watched. The cloth merchant, Mama Bintu, recalled that Zara had purchased an unusually large quantity of kola nuts, traditionally given as gifts to secure someone's silence or cooperation. What the village council did not know was that for 8 months, Amara had been secretly meeting with Usman Diarra, a young man from the neighboring village of Timbedra. Usman was handsome and charming, with the silver tongue of a born storyteller and the strong arms of a farmer. But he carried a reputation that preceded him, whispers of a violent temper and mysterious disappearances from his previous villages. Amara had met him during the harvest festival, when young people from surrounding villages came together to celebrate the year's bounty. His eyes had found hers across the circle of dance
on her knees and palms, consistent with her claim that she had knelt beside her friend's body to check for signs of life. If Amara had committed the murder, why would she remain at the scene? The killer would have had at least 10 minutes to escape before Kofi's arrival. The village's traditional healer, examining the body, noted that the fatal wound was delivered with exceptional force and precision, striking directly at the heart. Such accuracy suggested either extreme luck or considerable knowledge of anatomy, knowledge that Amara, despite her unconventional interests, did not possess. Unknown to the village council, there was one person who had witnessed part of the evening's events. Khadija, a young girl who suffered from night terrors and often wandered the village after dark. Her testimony was never sought because the adults assumed she was too young and too troubled to provide reliable information. But Khadija had been near the baobab tree that night, drawn by voices she heard in the darkness. Hidden behind a cluster of clay water jars, she had watched as 2 figures approached the great tree. One was definitely Zara. Khadija recognized her distinctive white head wrap with its blue geometric patterns. The other figure was taller, broader, moving with an aggressive stride that frightened the child. Khadija saw the confrontation but could not hear the words. She watched as the tall figure grabbed Zara's arm and shook her violently. She saw Zara fall to her knees, apparently pleading. Then, in a movement too quick for the child's eyes to follow clearly, she saw the flash of metal in the moonlight. Terrified, Khadija had run home and hidden under her sleeping mat, too frightened to tell anyone what she had witnessed. In her child's mind, she convinced herself it had been another of her nightmares, too fantastical to be real. The man Zara had been meeting secretly was indeed Usman Diarra, the same man who had been courting Amara. His charm and silver tongue had ensnared both women, though neither knew of the other's involvement with him. Usman's pattern was well established, though no one in either village had connected the dots. He would arrive in a new area, quickly identify young women who were either vulnerable or rebellious, and begin parallel courtships. He was skilled at reading people, understanding exactly what each woman needed to hear to fall under his spell. With Amara, he played the role of the adventurous romantic, encouraging her dreams of independence and promising to take her away from village life. With Zara, he presented himself as a traditional suitor who would provide security and respectability, claiming he was ready to approach her parents with a formal marriage proposal. His true purpose was neither romance nor marriage, but robbery. Usman had learned that both Amara and Zara had access to their family's wealth. Amara through her father's prosperous blacksmith business, and Zara through her father's trading enterprises. His plan was to convince one or both of them to steal from their families, then disappear with the money. On the night of her death, Zara had finally discovered the truth about Usman's double courtship. She had seen him with Amara near the mango grove and had followed them, watching their intimate conversation with growing horror and jealousy. Confronting Usman later that night, Zara had threatened to expose him to both villages unless he chose between her and Amara. She had also discovered his true intentions when she found stolen items from other villages hidden in his temporary shelter. Jewelry, coins, and other valuables that told the story of his previous crimes. The kola nuts Zara had purchased that morning were not for securing someone's silence, as the village council assumed, but were part of a traditional ritual she planned to perform to bind Usman to her and break whatever hold he had over Amara. In her young heart, she believed that their love could overcome his deception. But Usman had no intention of choosing between the women or abandoning his plans. When Zara threatened him with exposure, he saw only one solution. The ceremonial knife had been easy to steal from Amara's room during one of their meetings. She had shown it to him proudly, explaining its significance in their friendship with Zara. After killing Zara, Usman had carefully staged the scene to implicate Amara. He planted the torn fabric from Amara's wrapper in Zara's hand, having stolen a piece during one of their encounters. He ensured that Amara's fingerprints were the only ones on the knife handle by wiping it clean, then placing it carefully where she would instinctively grab it upon discovering the body.
According to the traditional laws of Kumbara, Usman's crimes demanded the ultimate punishment. However, Elder Fanta proposed a different solution, one that would serve both justice and the community's healing. Usman would be exiled permanently from the region, branded as a deceiver and thief, so that other communities would be warned of his nature. All the stolen goods found in his possession would be returned to their rightful owners, and he would work for 1 year in restitution to Zara's family before his exile began. Most importantly, his confession had cleared Amara of all suspicion and restored her standing in the community. The village council publicly acknowledged the injustice she had suffered and the courage she had shown in maintaining her innocence despite overwhelming evidence against her. The tragedy became a powerful teaching story for the village, illustrating several important truths. Both Amara and Zara had kept their relationship secret, preventing them from protecting each other and seeking help when deception became apparent. The most obvious explanation is not always the correct one, and communities must be willing to question their assumptions. Even the testimony of a troubled child proved crucial to uncovering the truth, reminding the village that wisdom and important information can come from unexpected sources. Despite Usman's careful planning and manipulation, the truth eventually emerged through the combined efforts of the entire community. In the years that followed, the baobab tree became known not just as a place of justice, but as a symbol of the importance of truth and community vigilance. Amara eventually did leave Kumbara, but not as a fugitive. She departed with the village's blessing to study at a school in the capital, carrying with her the knowledge that her community had ultimately stood by truth and